Hello, and welcome to that Eurovision podcast, Eurovision with a Slice of Life. My name is Rory, and I'm doing pretty well today. I've been watering my plants, and I've got like a little house succulent and a little aloe vera plant that were on the brink of death before I came back to Manchester, and now they're like growing anew, and it's like, yes, this is the time for life, you know? And joining me.
Jazzy, I recently found out that I'm going to be starting an internship on Monday, so I'm really, really happy and excited, and it's just been like preparing for that, really.
By the time this comes out, you'll be a working woman.
Yep.
And hi, it's Rosie. I'm also doing pretty well. I am exhausted because I have started teaching again recently, and it's been an interesting experience. I'm doing all my teaching online at the moment, so I am doing 7 hours of that a week, plus still the same amount of work that I would be doing charity-wise. So it's been a lot, but I'm really enjoying it, and hopefully having the chance to sort of decompress after a long day working 2 different jobs will be really nice here as well.
Well, this is what we're here to do, you know? This is the time just to relax and just indulge in some guilty pleasures, you know?
Georgia is not a guilty pleasure.
Oh.
Spoiler alert!
Yeah, spoiler!
It's the title.
Okay, fair enough. Okay.
No one's going to click on this podcast going, what country are they talking about today, when Rory's going to have Georgia, witty pun, in the title. Georgia on our minds or something.
There we go. Georgia on our mind. You've already made the title. I don't need to do it. My work is done. Again, we don't seem to have Tim because we've decided to kick him off because he basically just decided to completely ruin the Sarah Alto and Bag of Chips collaboration. So there's no point in that. So we'll just carry on, won't we? So it's like, ugh.
Oi, right here. I might have been gone for 3 weeks, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna leave.
Okay. You're welcome back.
Hello, it's Jim here. I'm back. I've had a very, very busy 3 weeks, so I kind of had to miss some episodes. But yeah, I managed to get everything back into I don't know. I don't even know how to say it. Back into shape. So I should be here from now on, except for a few occasions.
Yay! Good to have you back. It's Tim's time.
But to be fair,
but
to be fair, though, I have been listening, and let's just say I always keep laughing whenever Rory makes up an excuse of why I'm not here.
Unfortunately, Sarah Alto is still working with Bag of Chips. So
yeah, unfortunately so. But to be fair, we love them. I love them both.
Okay, well, you know, we love Sarah Alto on this podcast, so it's fine, you know, she's accepted.
Sarah Alto, if you'd like to come on this podcast sometime, hit us up.
Yes,
we'll have you.
This is the vibe. This is what we need, you know? So as Rosie alluded to in the introduction, this week we're going to be talking about Georgia. Now, Georgia is kind of a newcomer to Eurovision, kind of debuting in 2007 with Sopho Khalvashi and Visionary Dream. And they've pretty much been in every single contest since their first participation, with the exception of 2009, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So the best kind of position that they had was a tie between 2011 and 2010, which was in 9th place, with Sofia Nizaradze and Eldrine. So, you know, kind of a mixed bag, I guess you could say. So kind of just to get things going, who would be some of your favorite Georgian entries, you know?
Oh, I can start this off for you. There's 2, but let's say one of them is very, very controversial.
Ooh.
The first one, tell me about it. The first one is the little entry that kind of didn't make it to the stage. We don't want to put in by Stefan and 3G. I know a lot of people are gonna slate me for this, but I don't really care. Look, it's an upbeat song. It's just a it's just sad that the words "put in" didn't really. I know they're trying to do that, but Come on. I like the upbeat song. I mean, I know there's a reference on there that the EBU didn't really like, but at the end it was kind of catchy, so it made my list. And then the other one, as a contrast, the second entry I like is Waterfall from the 2013 contest. I don't know what it is. Like, I'm just a sucker for ballads, and the fact that Thomas Gesson wrote this, it kind of just lured me in further. I thought they weren't going to qualify, and luckily enough, they just managed to scrape it 10th. So I'm really surprised. But yeah, 2 entries, 2 different styles.
All I'm going to say about the last one is,
Of course. Yeah, and then for the other ones that you like, I'm like,
My favourite Georgian entries are 2010 Sopho Khalvashi, Shine. Just think it's a really, really nice ballad that I really enjoy when I listen to it, and it's quite it's one of those ballads that's quite dramatic, and I quite like ballads in Eurovision that raise the drama level just that little bit more. I also really like 2011 Eldrine, One More Day. It's just a really good rock entry, and I know some people are a little bit funny about the rap in the song, but I really, really enjoy it. And I like when like styles kind of mash up together and it produces something that's quite different but quite edgy, and it's just my thing. It's in my top 5 of 2011, so absolutely love it. Honourable mention would also have to be Waterfall. I just think it's a really, really good ballad and probably deserved a little bit more in 2013, which I tend to think is a weaker year, but I tend to think this is one of the stronger songs within it. Another honourable mention to Midnight Gold by Nika Kocherov and the young Georgian Lolitas. Again, it has that very British feel, like a British like indie rock feel, and I feel like that just speaks to me, and I really, really enjoy it for that, and I can completely understand why the UK jury gave this 12 points.
Okay, good choices there, yeah.
I'm also a huge fan of Midnight Gold. I think it's fantastic. It feels like it could have stepped out of the Hacienda in the 90s. It has that proper old school Britpop vibe to it that I just really
wonder why the
love.
juries gave it 12 points.
Yeah.
I'm still not over that qualifying, and I think I recorded a video of me like in the arena not being pleased that they qualified. Like I think I literally booed them when they got announced.
Oh god,
Tim! That's mean. And I can't like.
You're on your own with
call
that.
Anybody mean. I should not call anybody mean. So.
Yeah, Tim's on your own there.
This song so much.
The staging was amazing.
I mean, that's Sasha Jean-Baptiste for you, so.
True. She knows what she's doing, so that's...
Exactly.
Yeah.
I gotta give them props for that. That's all I'm gonna say.
I like...
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Sorry, Rosie. I just have to say, Tim's only been back on the podcast for 5 minutes and has already getting himself cancelled.
Yeah. Yep. You know, that's what I love to do. I like to cancel myself, apparently.
Yeah.
Take a shot every time Tim gets cancelled.
Could be a while.
We'll be very drunk by the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
Take a shot every time me or Tim gets themselves cancelled.
Or any of us in general. If you've listened to the Growers and Fallers episode, you'll already know. Sorry, Rosie, carry on.
I'm going to find out where it is in my rankings in 2016. It's second. Yeah, I can't complain about that.
Why?
Yeah. It's a good song.
1944 is my first place.
Hey, I'm not complaining about that.
No one's complaining about that.
No, this is the 1944.
Except everyone who wanted Sergei to win.
Oh,
I don't think anybody on this podcast wanted Sergei to win.
Yeah. So
No.
Yeah, that's a 4-0 thing, that is.
I feel like it shows my really chaotic music taste that my third place is Croatia.
There is a lie.
guided me. I forgot the words.
Oh God. This is the chaotic energy that I was hoping for now that Tim is back, and I'm like, yes.
Anyway, Midnight Gold is iconic. We stan.
Yeah.
Tim does not stan, but we stan. So yeah, I love Georgia's sort of rock entries. One More Day is another absolutely great one. And Warrior as well, I think, is absolutely fantastic. If anyone is sort of our age and grew up in the UK, there was a TV show called Raven that was like a children's game show.
Oh.
And that performance always reminds me of that because she's dressed exactly like the presenter of that.
And she's just as fit as the presenter.
Let the challenge begin!
And then like the staff, and then be like, oh yes. Honestly,
my apologies to every Scot listening to this podcast.
Bradley from What's the Worst is not going to like you after this.
I'm sorry, Bradley.
Yes.
I think as well as that, I also have to put a mention in for Visionary Dream, and I know I'm taking that away from Rory because it was sort of his love for the song that really got me listening to it again, and it's really sort of taken me recently. I think it's fantastic. But my biggest love from Georgia, my biggest heartbreak, the one that is, okay, it's second in its year ranking, and that's only because one of my all-time top 5 entries is the first. For You by ethno jazz band Ariel. I say no more. I say no more.
Other than if you want to listen to it and the Favorite Non-Qualifiers podcast, listen to it there.
Yeah, I've had my rant.
Yeah. Yeah, I really love a lot of George's entries. They kind of were...
I mean, of course, you love most of George's entry. It's like literally your what was it? Wasn't it your Twitter name one time, or is it still your Twitter name?
It was my Twitter. It was my Twitter at one point. It was Vision Rory. So I kind of call it the precursor to my current stan country, which is Ukraine. But George's entries, there's a lot of George's entries that I absolutely love. I really love Visionary Dream. The fact that was the first ever entry for them. I really, really love that song. I love the energy, and I love the kind of the build and the up to the climax part of that. It's so good. And then as well as that, I really love 2014 as well. The Shin America, I know that's a very controversial pick. However, if you've not listened to our favorite non-qualifier episode, then you really need to check that out, because I really go into a lot more depth to do with, you know, why the country was so robbed of a place in 2014. Again, Nina Sublati, Diana Gurtskaya, 2008, Peace Will Come. I mean, that's so poignant itself when literally about 2 months later, Georgia and Russia were literally going to war. So it's so, I don't know, there's a lot of variety in Georgia's entries, and that's what I really love about it, because they just don't stick to the same thing. Again, going from the Shin and Mariko to Midnight Gold, like it's such a mess, but in a good way, you know. And yeah, you know, recently we've been able to see them kind of branch out and try new things, like, you know, singing in Georgian for the first time, so that's really interesting as well. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what else they have prepared and like what else they have planned, because Georgia's unpredictable, but in a good way, you know. Yeah, so obviously with Georgia we've seen a lot of variety, I guess you can say. So I guess they're kind of one of those countries that never really kind of get stuck in a niche or anything like that. They're always willing to take a risk. So what do you think about sort of their choice recently to start singing in Georgian as opposed to English? Like, do you think that is more of a, like, how would you say, like more of a nationalistic thing, or do you think it's just more for the sake of screw English, you know?
Honestly, I get the impression that I don't think they really care. I think they just sing in whatever they feel like that particular year. I really like both of their entries. I didn't mention Keep On Going in the rock entries. Fantastic song. So good live, and just so underappreciated.
I mean, definitely. It was better once it got to Tel Aviv, But before
Yeah.
then, it was a bit of like dead in the water.
I mean, I really like
have
the
very
staging for that.
uncomfortable
Like, there was a reason why that won the press poll in its first rehearsal.
There's a video somewhere on YouTube that did it was just sort of one of those Eurovision meme videos that I occasionally get stuck in holes watching. And what someone's done is they've mashed up Sul Signare with the Crimea is Ukraine meme.
Oh God.
So it goes, I have very uncomfortable question for you. I very uncomfortable question for you. Crimea is Ukraine. Ukraine, of course.
Oh my God. Okay.
And it's art. It's absolute art.
You'll have to include it in the article for the podcast because I need to see this.
I'm gonna search for it now.
Okay, good idea. But yeah, does anyone want to take that question?
I feel like Georgia sort of shows off so much of diversity in their music scene generally that I feel like language is a part of that, but I don't feel like it's sort of central to that. I mean, the last entry they sent was sung in like they attempted to send was sung in like 4 languages, so...
I mean, that is very true.
5.
George's mission isn't really to like the language doesn't really play a part. I feel like their mission is to like try and send something different every single year and like maybe be a bit edgy with it and just hoping that they're just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. Lately, it's not really sticking because they're not qualifying, but
And
they're
wrongly
still
so.
being true to themselves in that they're trying something different every year. And we have to respect and stand that.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it's very individual.
Yeah.
It's just wrong. They should be qualifying. We should be appreciating Georgia more.
But this is a Georgia Stan podcast anyway.
I think they do well. Like, they do well on the juries, so it's mostly televoters that, like, you know, don't put them through. If you think about it.
That's kind of interesting. I wonder, like, what doesn't click then with televoters? What do you think is the kind of like missing for them to not make it through?
Maybe it's too out there. Like, I don't know. But then you have entries that you again would assume were too out there that do quite well with the televoters, so it's really hard to tell.
I mean, yes, as well we know televoters can be very unpredictable. So maybe they just are tasteless. Who knows? I know that I've basically just cancelled the entire...
probably the most logical explanation.
Well, I was going to say we've probably just cancelled our own like listenership now at this point, so it's like,
Some of you can stay. Stan Georgia and you can stay.
Yeah, there we go. But I want to kind of bring in something that I know a couple of you may not necessarily know that much about, but when we look at Georgia, for example, in Eurovision, we see that it's kind of a very sort of sawtooth thing. Sometimes they do really well, sometimes they kind of not qualify. And I kind of want to contrast that with their performances in Junior Eurovision, because Junior Eurovision is a completely different kind of way of doing things, just even in the terms of the format. For example, like within the format of Junior Eurovision, we have online voting and everything like that, but Georgia is actually the most successful country at the contest there. So what do you think, like why does Georgia fail in the adult contest but succeed so well in the junior contest?
No, go on. I'll go.
Because the people who watch Junior Eurovision are the sorts of people who have taste.
I mean...
that is true.
Yeah.
I mean, what else is there? I think it's more of like, you know how Junior is catered to mostly more younger children. It's more family-centric. And the fact that most of its neighbors is there, and they all share that same values equally. And that's what kind of like makes it a successful show. And they also have a successful format for selecting their Junior Eurovision entries. So that's what makes them so successful. I mean, I went to Gliwice Silesia and I really seen how professional, how lovely they are. when it comes to junior. They take it really seriously. Even when they hosted it in 2017? Yeah, it was 2017.
2017. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even then, like that was like Georgia's first time of hosting a Eurovision event, and they were very. No, it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, despite the hiccup with the online vote, like,
Yeah,
the rest were still fine.
Yeah, but the rest of the time they were incredibly professional, and I think that's something that kind of can be very much commended to them. I just sometimes wonder, like, obviously with Georgia, they know how to kind of keep the child a child, I guess, compared to a lot of other countries that may necessarily sort of age them unnecessarily. But that's a story for another time. I'd love to be able to kind of transfer that kind of success into the adult contest, because they send the same amount of quality, you know, between the adult contest and the junior contest. So I'd love to know, like, I'd love to just ask the televoters, like, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? Yeah, okay, let's cast our minds back a little bit. Let's cast our minds back to 2009 with the whole "We Don't Want a Putin" controversy. If you haven't heard the song, I'll put in a little part of the clip now. We don't want a Putin. The negative move is killing the groove. I'ma try to shut in some disco tonight. Boogie with you. We don't want a Putin. So that's what "We Don't Want to Putin" was like. So "We Don't Want to Putin" was supposed to be representing Georgia at the adult contest in 2009, represented by Stefano 3G, which was the first time we actually saw Tako Gacic-Chiladze, who would go on to represent Georgia in 2017. So it's kind of interesting.
And then marry Milanov.
Yeah, then marry Boris Milanov, and look where they are now. They've got two bubbas together, and that's gorgeous, you know?
It's quite interesting how, like, she went on to represent them in Ukraine with everything that goes on between, like, Russia and Ukraine and stuff.
That's pretty true, that, actually. Maybe, well, let us remember the kind of the drama surrounding Tamara in her national selection, with that little headline that came up in the background, or it was like, "Russia invades Georgia." It's like, ooh. But no, so kind of looking at that, like, at that song, would you have allowed that to participate, or would you have decided, okay, maybe not, maybe this was like they needed to change the lyrics? Because obviously with the lyrics themselves, the one problem was "We don't want to Putin" as opposed to "We don't want to put in."
I guess my issue with it is that even if they change the lyrics, are they still safe in Russia with the way Russia can be when you speak out against them? So even if they had changed the lyrics, would they have been safe to participate? I'd really question it, especially gathering that Georgia and Russia's relations were not exactly friendly at that point in time.
Pretty true. It's very true, that.
I feel pretty similar to Jazzy on this one. I would worry more than anything for the safety of the performers. Doing that in Russia would be a bold move, I guess. And I feel like the last thing that the Eurovision Song Contest as an entity and the EBU would like is mysterious disappearance of Georgian Eurovision act, which I'm not sure how... The thing I find with Russia, particularly politically, is that I don't know how much I can exaggerate and still feel like it's kind of almost parody, and how much of it could actually happen.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I can conceive of it, there's a chance it could happen.
Okay, so it's kind of debating whether or not if that was even within the realms of possibility or not.
Yeah, you gotta. For me, it's a mixture of the safety and the fact that how do I say this? It's a safety and the fact that it was really borderline. So I can see why the EBU said no. as much as I would have wanted it on the stage, and then the Russian audience would just be like dropping their jaws whenever they hear it. But still, like, I can see why it had to be. You know, the EBD said no, you're not sending that.
I mean, when it comes down to obviously the priority has to be the safety of the artist taking part. And I mean, that's why, you know, in 2017, Russia didn't take part in Ukraine, and in 2012, Armenia didn't take part in Azerbaijan. So, you know, like, it's a very understandable concern to have. And that's definitely part of the reason, I guess, why Georgia did end up deciding to withdraw. I personally would have allowed the song to carry on, to go in. If it was me, I think at that point, you know, the point of Eurovision is not to sort of immediately take digs at sort of relations and things like that, but it's just it's a fun, light entertainment show. And if the best way you can do that is by, you know, making light of a rather odd and frankly a little scary situation, especially, you know, when you're basically at war with the host country, you know, it's about acceptance and, you know, tolerance and, you know, understanding. And I think if they were to have sent that song, I think they probably wouldn't have done very well, but then again, the media storm of it all probably would have carried it through, perhaps. 2009 itself was just a very chaotic year in itself. So of course it was debatable whether it was even going to happen, you know, like if Georgia was even going to be able to make it in. But yeah, if it was me, I would have definitely let it in, just because A, it's actually a good song, and B, you might as well diffuse the tensions as best you can, even if it is by means of a disco 70s inspired track saying they don't want to put in the negative mood, you know? Like, no one wants to put in a negative mood. No one does. Well, I don't know. Maybe you do, listener, but I don't know.
I feel like there's almost a whole discussion here about politics in Eurovision, and I almost feel like I can sort of bring it up now, but I feel like it's almost its own episode.
Maybe that's something that we'll do ourselves at one point. We'll do like a whole episode dedicated to how international relations just end up being played out on a Eurovision stage.
I think as well as that, just the idea of how political is acceptable, how political should be acceptable for a Eurovision song, because I certainly from how I view things, I almost view art as almost inherently political. So I feel like how you can define what is acceptable and what is unacceptable a really interesting thing for me.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Yeah, for sure. Obviously, if we might make a thing like that, but we'll leave the we don't want to put in thing at this point. So we want to know what you think anyway, listener. If you want to like get in touch, please do just get in touch and let us know, would you have let the song compete or not? It would be fantastic. But yeah, just to kind of wrap things up a little bit, what do you think Georgia can do to either A, get back into the final, because, you know, Georgia's been struggling with that pretty recently, and B, just kind of get a good result, you know?
It's really hard because I feel like whatever we say, Georgia is just going to keep doing Georgia and just like keep throwing different stuff at us until something eventually does stick and they eventually do get a good result and qualify. And I guess I kind of like appreciate them for that, because at least then they are being true to themselves.
And like that's something that we do keep coming back to on this podcast, you know, authenticity. Yeah.
I feel like I wouldn't want to tell Georgia to do anything else other than keep throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks. I love so much of what they send, and honestly, the impression I get is that qualifying is great, but they don't necessarily feel like it's the end of the world if they don't qualify. And that attitude just is so freeing. It means that you can do something that's so unique and so exciting, and I really hope it pays off for them, because honestly, 9th as their highest place is an absolute travesty. They deserve far, far better.
This isn't definitely coming from a Georgia stan or anything like that, is it?
I mean, for me, I've got the same opinions as Rosie. Like, you know, they do it their own way. They stick to their gun. So I don't think whatever I say would make a difference. The only thing I'd suggest would be like, you know, if you do select a song, maybe get out there if you can. Like, I know they do the year, like the promotional tour there and then sometimes, but you know, if you can, go for it.
And I think as well, like, just Georgia has this tendency to kind of just go their own way about things and like have a completely different thing. Sometimes they might need a little bit of help, as well we've seen with, you know, 2013, 2015, 2016, you know, they enlisted the help of Thomas Gayson in various different sort of degrees. You know, for example, 2013, Thomas Gayson pretty much wrote the song, whereas in 2015 and 2016 it was more of a remastering and kind of just doing an extra little bit of tweaking just when it comes to the revamp of things. So for me personally, I'd love to see Georgia just kind of carry on what they're doing at the moment, just being incredibly different. Obviously, as well, we've seen it has had varying degrees of success, but I think at this point they really don't care. I think at this point it's more, to quote a beautiful song, sailing through their story, sharing their history or historiori. Yeah, honestly, I think there's a lot of potential in Georgia, and I would love to go to Tbilisi. I think Tbilisi, it seems like a beautiful country, and yeah, I think if they just kind of carry on with this idea of just celebrating who they are themselves, and that in itself is shown with Tonika Kipriani with Take Me As I Am. You know, their 2020 entry was basically flying in the face of having to change yourself in order to be, like, appealing, you know? And I think that essentially sums up Georgia's approach to Eurovision anyway. Sometimes they might be a little bit more commercial, sometimes they might go a little bit more left field, but regardless, they're still going to be proud of whatever they're sending. So I think that's a really, really interesting way of looking at it, you know? And honestly, if we get to go to the home of wine, then, I mean, do any of us here drink wine?
No.
No, but Pasha Parfany is going to be so hyped.
Oh my god. Okay, Moldova, can you send Pasha Parfany to whenever Georgia hosts
And can Belgium send Senek again? Because she loves her wife.
Oh my god. Do we really want Pasha Parfany and Senek in the same room together? They're going to be the two alcoholics of the contest, okay?
And if Greece send Cosa Nostra back...
Oh, no.
They'll make everything free. Yeah, I mean, that's quite sad, because recently the Agathonas Ionakidis, I can't pronounce his second name, but yeah, the old guy from Cosa Nostra unfortunately passed away recently. So, you know, rest in peace, Agathonas. We're
Rest in peace. I hope the alcohol is free where you are.
Oh, definitely. And if not, then it's a goddamn travesty.
I was just going to say rest in peace.
Yeah. But yeah, so do we have any sort of final points on Georgia just before we kind of finish it off?
Stream for You by Athena Jazz Banderiao.
I can't wait to see what you're going to send for 2021.
Let's hope you can get back in that top 10 soon.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, 2021 is going to be a very interesting year, and if Georgia goes down the same way as what they were trying to do in 2020, then hey, I think we're down for it, you know. And who knows, we'll all have Georgia on our minds as by the end of 2021. So it'll be fantastic, it'll be fine. But yeah, that brings us to the end of this episode of That Eurovision Podcast. I'd really like to thank Jazzy, Rosie and Tim for, you know, coming to the eastern edge of Europe and, you know, just kind of looking back on a good country, I think. Although Tim may disagree. Yeah, so in the meantime, please do continue to follow us on all of our social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at That Euro Podcast. We're also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well, so please do follow us there so you always get notified for whenever a new episode comes out. Obviously, as well, if you want to get involved, if you have any opinions about what we were talking about, please do get involved as well on our social medias. We're always active on there, so please just follow us there. And in the next couple of weeks, we'll be kind of carrying on with a couple of these country perspectives. We have a couple of other surprises for you, maybe a couple of year retrospectives as well. So I think we'll be keeping you very interested as we start to go into national final season. So it's going to be very interesting. But yeah, so shall we all say goodbye?
Bye!
Bye!